paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying, I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. It is a Murders at Brainstorm Brewery Manor themed episode this week. A crime. There's been a murder. The victim, a literal child, Douglas Johnson.
Murdered at the
in cold
climbing
blood.
gym.
Gone. Started with the knee, finished off.
The chalk
culprit?
outline was made of rock climbing chalk.
What was his crime beyond being super annoying?
DJ didn't commit the crime. He was murdered. He was the victim. You're
Yeah,
just,
What did he
you're just
say?
making fun of the victim.
Jason's, well, see, I was going to say that the culprit remains at large. Jason is already getting to the plot twist here, where DJ was actually the bad guy all along, and murdering him was a kind act. Is that what you're saying, Jason?
I'm saying if the killer's at large, it can't be DJ.
But it could be you.
Could be.
Oh, and welcome into the show, everybody. It's Brainstorm Brewery. DJ's dead on a plane. What if he did die on a plane, though? Is he on the plane right now?
That's
Do we know?
statistically possible.
Oh, I'll figure out if I feel bad about that later. Anyway, welcome into the show, everybody. It's Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hurst.
Speaking of dying on planes, y'all ever heard of the Werner Herzog film Wings of Hope?
I can't imagine him making a movie that's hopeful.
Well, it's about a plane that was struck by lightning, and the term they used for it was disintegrated, and it was about the sole survivor. Also, he was supposed to be on that flight. His just like couldn't catch the flight in time.
And then the sole survivor is sought out by the guy who has the bone condition. And it turns out that there's been a long history of soul survivors, and that actually they're comic book heroes.
I haven't seen the movie, if that's what you're asking.
Is
I
this
was
just the
bringing
plot
it
from
up.
Unbreakable? It sounds like the...
Yes, it was the plot from Unbreakable, but furthermore, it was the plot from Glass. Follow-up.
And see, I was just talking about German cinema because I was reading Wikipedia the other day.
Surely you liked that.
I mean, if you
movie,
like that,
Jason.
you'll love Grizzly Man, where he's like, I shouldn't show you the footage of this man getting ripped apart by a bear, but I will play his screams.
The barbarism of it all.
I thought they were
figured
my
Jason would be
friends! So family begged me not to play this audio.
Before the show, Jason goes, I don't feel like doing a song tonight. What he felt like doing was bear mauling.
I mean, that's a good bit. Jason, kudos to you. Golf clap.
If you're going to set me up for doing the Werner Herzog voice, I will always do it.
I actually believe that all the noises Jason makes are bear noises, technically.
I got that
That is
big
a
bear
reasonable...
energy.
Yeah.
Aw.
It's the jackets, the tracksuits, man.
Is that
Just
is
gives
that a
off
bear thing?
I don't know that. I just know that it gives off a very particular type of energy. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I was describing you to my spouse as like this guy from the mid-up who just always wears a different color tracksuit every day to Magic Cons. And they said something along the lines of just like, man, that is like the average American voter right there.
Is it?
I think so. I don't know.
The average American voter wears tracksuits? I feel like the average American voter does not. I feel like the average American voter wears a camo hat, and everybody who doesn't wear a camo hat doesn't fucking vote. Go vote. Vote, you morons. Oh my
Okay.
God,
Any
why
vote's
is it
necessary.
close? Why is it
Okay.
close?
Okay, Taylor Swift.
I'm a CIA plant telling people to vote. I'm not saying who to vote for. I'm just saying vote.
Go vote for Taylor Swift, clearly.
Well, welcome back into the show. While we were doing Murders at Karlov Manor Prerelease, there was a little bit of history. It was a little bit of history. Facebook reminded me that the Super Bowl was on this week. But in probably more Magic relevant news, Cass was busy winning an Open. So I just want to, throw that out there. A little throwback Monday night here to the time.
That should be a new segment where we talk about tournaments Cass won 5 years ago. It's called "What Have You Done Lately?"
Well, 5 years ago, I was winning the SCG Baltimore Team Open with Jacob Hagan and Ryan Overturf on a team we called Triple Entendre because we were all three of us jokes. We all played worse versions of our decks than other versions in the format. We set 3 formats back, multiple weeks of development leading up to a Pro Tour.
What were you? What deck did you play? What format?
I played Blue-Black Death Shadow in Legacy, which was just worse than Grixis Delver at that point. Ryan Overturf played Temur Phoenix splashing green for Traverse the Ulvenwald, which was just worse than Blue-Red.
Yes, it was. And I remember those.
Jacob Hagan losing, I think, 4 total games of Magic, maybe 5 total games of Magic over the 18 rounds we played. Played a deck that was basically unplayable for the rest of the format, which was just mono white splashing for negates, just white weenie beatdown.
Oh yeah,
weenie beaty, huh?
A little weenie beatdown.
Did you either of you get in any pre-releasing over the weekend?
I played a single sealed pool with just 6 play boosters, not like a pre-release kit or anything. It was pretty cool. The format seems fine. Disguise is, I think, a really nice evolution of Morph. Given that the flip down creatures Ward 2 is really strong. Strong enough that I think some of the disguise cards are going to see real standard play. Probably very little Pioneer play, although I did see somebody playing one of them in Legacy in a perspective deck list, which is cool.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Jason, did you game any?
That was my daughter's 8th birthday, so we took her to a hockey game.
That's way better.
Hell yeah. It's a good birthday party.
Sure, that was an enjoyable. So, I pre-released a little. I have some thoughts on the format. But yeah, it was fun. So let's start here. Cass, you had a lot of experience, right? Because you were present for a handful of right and then play. Mm-hmm. What was sort of the general? I don't want to say consensus, but what did you pick up from the players around you and your own experiences?
For the most part, at every pre-release, people are just excited to be playing Magic. I think a lot of us get bogged down in the negativity of the online content creator always talking about what's wrong space. Yeah. Most people just want to play Magic. People did complain about the price increase on play boosters, and they started opening them and realized how many rares they got, and they were less upset. You open a play booster box, you get 50 rares or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty reasonable. The price increase is probably more than it should be, but I think there's sort of a lot of... It ranges from excited to play Magic and apathetic, whereas I think a couple of sets ago, mostly around the Doctor Who release, people were just kind of beaten down and felt like everything was a little bit too much. I feel like there's sort of this cycle when Magic releases an actual main set, people are pretty happy, and then everything between that is just kind of sadness and misery.
Yeah, it does seem that way sometimes. Yeah, I went to one Saturday event. I know it's a little different. Most people probably go on Fridays. But the store that I went to was not packed for it, which we'll get to in a little bit. Talking about that. As far as is it Disguise, the new morph mechanic? Is that right?
Yeah, and Cloak kind of is Manifest.
Yeah, this set is complicated. I know we say that
murder
about
mysteries are complicated, Corbin.
Well, it's true. It's true. We say that about a lot of sets these days, but there's a lot of words on cards, a lot of things that people just didn't remember or didn't play right just in the room around me. It seems like a lot of there's just a lot going on. And then the ward thing came up multiple times because there's also a handful, at least one card at uncommon, but multiple cards that actually get around ward. So you have issues of people just turning the card face down and then forgetting that it has ward because they're used to playing with morph, right? Or even if they say they're new, whatever. I had somebody remember ward, and then I had to show them why my card wasn't countered by ward and that was also just really awkward. Just like,
I
why?
believe there is a full cycle of uncommons that are uncounterable specifically as counterplay to disguise, which I think is like very immaculate game design. I think that's like a very good thing for them to have.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong. At the pre-release, though, I just wouldn't. There was a lot of confusion across the room from my perspective. But that's I think that's just par for the course with it. Because look, I mean, I'm going to draft it online, and I don't complain about the complex sets online. I draft the hell out of them. So
one of my dear friends stopped playing pre-releases specifically because he had an experience where he had to explain to a small child why their Rancor was going into the graveyard when their 2/2 got shocked in response to Rancor being cast. And he was just like, that was just like, that's going to happen no matter what Magic is like, and I can't do that. So he just doesn't play pre-releases anymore.
Yeah, that's reasonable. It's just awkward. And I'm a full on
exacerbated by like
and I'm
at
pre-releases at FNM in general. I pretty much am like this, but at pre-releases for sure, I'm a take anything back you want. Like we will reverse the whole turn, man. It's fine. Like, but I don't want the things. I don't like. It's probably better if we don't have to do that a lot. And this felt like the highest thing. I don't know. I don't do pre-releases quite as often. And we're in a little bit of a different circumstance of design at these days. We'll see how it hits. It's on Arena tomorrow.
I am excited I'm excited to start playing with these cards in Standard. It feels really weird to be excited about a set 4 Standard because I feel like the last set came out and then Standard season started like almost a month afterwards. But now, I'm looking at the spoiler and I'm like, oh, that card's going to go in that deck, or I can brew a deck with this. I probably have like 20 or 30 ideas for decks just like kicking around in my head. Maybe 5 or 6 on paper.
And we'll get to this in a little bit later, but people talking about it. But are you then, that implies that it sounds like you're happy with kind of where Standard's at and what's possible?
So I think right now Standard is like in sort of like a perfect triangular metagame. Mm-hmm. And it's really rare that you get that in a Standard format. And I think it is like the concerted efforts of play design and being a much larger team than it was previously. The 3-year rotation, I think, is also weirdly a key part of it, because one of the worst things in Standard is when the format devolves into just like a mid-range soup fest, right? It's like who can play the more 4-mana cards without losing to the aggro decks, and just like it gets grindy and miserable. And I think Domain existing as this like go over the top, mid-range decks cannot beat us in a prolonged game. They have to either go under us or they have to play some tech like to steal our Atraxa or to copy our Atraxa. And that forces mid-range soup decks to sort of separate from the middle and kind of play things for the big decks. And then when Domain gets too good, then the aggro decks like Toxic and Mono Red come in and start preying on Domain, which then forces the mid-range decks to start playing more cut downs, more low-end sweepers. And you just sort of have this like either the agency decks, like the mid-range decks, are beating the low-to-the-ground decks, or low-to-the-ground decks are beating Domain, or Domain is beating the agency decks. And it's just like this nice triangular metagame where each week you can predict which decks you think are going to be popular, change your deck to fit it. And I think we really haven't seen something like this since like
Mirrodin.
I was going to say like Scars of Mirrodin. Like Innistrad.
We've had it more
Standard.
recently than
Innistrad was,
I remember like Scars and Innistrad Standard had a lot of like, is it Solar Flare week? Is it Mono Red week? Is it
correct? Yeah.
Is it Control week?
Yeah.
And that was a great format.
That was actually a really fun time period. We've had good Standard format. Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad had 8 different of Standard. That's, I think, the high water mark modern set design of, and obviously any given tournament is going to be variable, but yeah, I mean the 8 individual decks in the top 8 of a Standard
8 decks in a
Pro
top
Tour
8 is chef's kiss for sure.
Yeah.
For any format ever,
Right. But right, I mean in Standard to end up with that much balance at the level of a Pro Tour is unheard of, right? I mean, and it's obviously some luck involved, but so Cass posted this meme in our Discord, right? It was Bant Toxic destroying 5-color Domain, which is keeping mid-range soup out of the format. So is Atraxa the missing piece here? Like, is Atraxa the card, the go over the top? Because think about it's not like 5-color Domain, even though it plays out a lot as a control deck or what. We've had control decks in formats past, but the line between control and mid-range was so kind of blurred that everything still just kind of counted as mid-range soup. And maybe you could play an aggro deck, but there was rarely combo or anything like that. And you know, I mean, 5-color domain, is that the pillar? If you talk about a triangle, is that the pillar that in this case is fulfilled by ramp rather than control, or
So-
filled by combo-ish? If you look at it that way.
Domain is not really a combo deck or a control deck to me, or even it's a ramp mid-range deck, but it's a mid-range deck that goes so far over the top of the other ones the format can't devolve into soup.
Yeah,
Because I mean, think about it. Like the card Archangel of Wrath, I think is actually really the thing that holds it together as a mid-range deck. Because in the past, you beat ramp decks as mid-range by going underneath them, but you can't do that when they have uncounterable Archangel of Wrath. And Archangel of Wrath also lets you beat the aggro decks, and so the domain deck has this sort of like thing in the middle of the game if you do a little bit of ramping. And then also in games where the resources trade a lot, like you use the Archangel to play the mid-range game, Atrax lets you re-up. But also means that like mid-range decks have tools to beat that in the form of like Liliana of the Veil, which is a great addition to Standard. That makes it if the domain decks start getting too reliant on their anti-aggro tools, they can get beaten by mid-range decks.
Well,
There's a lot of nuance in deck building right now also, which I think is just like something that I haven't felt since probably pre-Kaladesh. Like building collected company decks and like the Tarkir era or whatever.
Yeah, where you know would often come down to the games would go in such ways that it would come down to those individual card choices.
Right.
What played well against Tragic Arrogance back then. Yeah, I agree on all those points, right? Like Archangel of Wrath definitely ties it together, having played Domain. Back to Life, which is blah blah blah. Also, the mid-range decks can't really just play Atraxa, which is probably a big part of it, you know? I don't know, it's kind of wild to talk about Standard and have it actually exist in this. But this leads into then the next part of this is Cass is talking about all this nuance and deck building and how we've got a format that goes back and forth, and that's what the data bears out. Then you have some people who go on the internet or just look at the decks and whatever, and they say, oh, I look at a new card and I think about this. Oh, then I just think it's non-playable because Shieldred exists. Or Atraxa exists. And that's that. Why even bother? Because in 3-year Standard rotation is now to blame because those cards are going to be around for longer. It's going to get Sunfalled out of existence, you know.
Sunfall is one of like the misses high on power level. I think that Sunfall is like a little bit too good.
It is very good.
It's probably what a 5-mana Wrath has to be, but like it's Exile's a little iffy.
Yeah, it's very, very strong. But yeah, I mean, to the point though, like people are saying because of the 3-year rotation, we're never going to be rid of these cards. It's always going to be Shieldred forever, and it's killing any interest in the format.
I had a conversation with a local, someone who I respect as a player a fair bit, who was talking about like you didn't really see a lot of things in the new set in Murders of Karlov Manor that looked Standard playable or particularly strong. And I was like, man, you're just not looking hard enough. Like I listed off 4 cards that I think are very good. And some of them even make their own new archetype. And we talked about it, and he was like, I think you're right. And I can't remember, it was some pro player on Twitter years ago that said something along the lines of, it's much easier to see why something is bad than why something is good. Like, it's super easy to say, like, oh, this card's bad because it loses to Shieldred. But to be able to look at a card like Delny Streetwise Lookout and be like, oh, that card lets you do almost an infinite loop with Inti and Rona. And it's like, where are we at? Right? With Relic of Legends, right? Like, you can see a card, and if you can see all of there are cathedrals everywhere for those with eyes to see, etc.
I've never heard that quote, and I've not even heard the, the relayed story of a Magic pro saying that, but I think that's actually...
I think that quote might be a Jordan Peterson original. However, I'm stealing it and reappropriating it because it's a good line.
Fair. Yeah, that's... I'm definitely I see the negative side of cards. I'll say that, which makes brewing kind of difficult times. But yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, I mean, what about the 3-year rotation though? Is this something that you think is? We've had some rumblings against it, but we also have people saying, well, this is one of the reasons people are actually going to be able to play the format.
I want to keep it real with you. I've not heard a single person say that they're against it personally, so I haven't really heard that. But I can definitely see why people would say it. Also, if they're complaining about a 3-year rotation and saying that Shieldred's a problem, can they do math? Because Shieldred would still be in Standard if they cut it off when they were supposed to. The only cards I think have overstayed their welcome in Standard are the Channel Lands, which I think are just like generically too good across the board in Magic.
Oh, yeah.
However, like the Channel Lands did create a kind of a cool Standard deck at the Slow Gurk deck, so how bad can they really be?
Well,
I think
Jason,
people are
where
just
do
mad
you-
about Shieldred because it's a $100 card. Like, I think that's a reasonable complaint. Make the complaint you actually want to make if you're going to complain.
That's
Then
where
do
I
challenger
think
decks again or whatever. Like, if you want to have standard, make standard affordable.
Good point.
Also, like, the only decks in Standard that are actually expensive are the Shieldred decks, and, like, I think the Shieldred decks are kind of mediocre for the most part. Shieldred's not even the best 4-drop a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to play Standard, there's a dozen ways to play it that don't involve buying $100 Shieldreds.
Well, yeah, I think that's where this is getting to, is that the complaints about X new thing, in this case 3-year rotation, are, kind of similar to the complaints people...
Yeah, I want it to be a 2-year rotation like it was when I was fucking complaining all the time. Oh, wait.
You know what card existed in a 2-year rotation? Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Checkmate.
Yep.
Atheists.
Both of those hit $100 for the record.
Yeah.
And both of those overstayed their welcome on a 2-year rotation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Shieldred is the most modest of the $100 standard cards. It is a 4-mana Baneslayer Angel. It is the strongest Baneslayer Angel maybe ever. But, like, it comes into play. It doesn't do something immediately. Like, you have to untap it or pass the turn. They can use an instant speed removal spell on it. Like, your opponent can play Shieldred and you can play the game for, like, 6 turns. And, like, yeah, you're hurting, but you're not dead.
And
I don't
also
know.
get Tidebindered.
Right. There's just a million ways to deal with it. Like, Jace Mind Sculptor was way too above rate. And Jace Vryn's Prodigy was only that expensive because of weird supply issues. And it was very good, but, like, I don't know. If you're going to complain,
also
make the complaint you mean to make.
Yeah, and it has to be said, of course, none of us touched on inflation, making $100 Shieldred now just not the same as $100 Jason Mind. All right, well, we kind of skipped into our show notes a little bit, but that's okay. Let's back up a little bit and get to...
They don't know we have show notes. You don't have to reference show notes they don't know about. I don't even know we have show notes. I'm surprised to hear you say that.
They're here for me. And you know what? That's good, because that gives us some structure, Jason, and the structure makes the show. That's something I've always
last week,
said.
and it was one of our best episodes in years, so I don't know what to tell you about structure, dog.
Well, I think the answer
talked about
is...
wood chippers. That was way better than talking about Magic.
Yeah, I think the answer is that people need to go to youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery and go check out last week's episode. What was it called specifically? What was the title of that episode?
Wood chipper safety or something?
There you go. Check that out on YouTube and hit that smash that subscribe button.
Was that really
And
one
Jason
of our
would
most
tell you-
successful episodes?
It was one of our best.
Okay,
Nobody watches us on YouTube,
sure.
but
At
they could easily just
youtube.com.
give us a like. That'd be great if you could thumbity uppity for $0. That'd be super.
Jason would also like if you were to do something sexual to the bell, if I remember.
It doesn't. It's unfortunate that people are so immature they can't hear finger blast without assuming it's sexual.
Oh, you just mean like...
Finger blast can just be like a...
Yeah. Or finger guns. That's a blast. Pew pew.
To the bell. At youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery. And while you're going there, we are going to talk about mtgstocks.com, the #1 place on the internet to get all of your Magic financial information, the place to go to find what cards are moving, what cards are moving quickly, what cards are selling out. You can set alerts so that you can know exactly when cards you're keeping an eye on are beginning to move. All of the information you want at your fingertips, as well as content and a premium side that gives you even more tools. The place we use for all of our picks of the week and the segment coming to you right now, Breaking Bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
I used a tool that I designed on mtgstocks.com to identify both my pick of the week and my breaking bulk this week. It is a tool that simply lists all the cards that are cheaper on Card Kingdom than they are on TCG Player. That's it. That's the tweet. If a card is cheaper on Card Kingdom, chances are it's sold out on Card Kingdom, or it's about to sell out on Card Kingdom, or something's wrong. So, TCG Player is usually cheaper because it's a bunch of people competing and racing to the bottom versus one store that are selling it for the most they think they can get for it. So I identified a pick of the week tier and a breaking bulk tier card using that tool. It is available to premium subscribers at mtgstocks.com. Would you like to hear the card I identified?
I would.
Oh yeah.
Dark Steel. You know what? Dark Steel equipment. Uncommon.
Dark Steel Axe, the one from Scars of Mirrodin. +2/+1 indestructible.
Nope.
Dark Steel
You mean
Plate.
the set Dark Steel?
It's from the set Dark Steel.
Oh, it's an equipment. Uncommon, you said?
An uncommon equipment from Dark Steel that
Is it the
equips for
plus-
the same cost as its mana cost.
Is it +0/+6 one?
No. I think that was common. That was like Drake scale
Yeah.
armor or something like that.
Masks
Slag
of
armor.
masks of something.
Mask of Memory.
Mask of Memories, that's one that makes about every year that somebody's breaking bulk, but it's not that.
Fair enough. How about a
Thorak Battle Claws. I'm just listening
It
to all
is
the Mirrodin
actually
block
okay.
equipment.
I'll tell you this much for free: it's a mask, but not Mask of Memory.
mask of Is? Yeah,
Chiskoria?
sure, man.
No.
I
His
know- I
Nemesis
can-
mask. All creatures
man.
able to block equipped
Yeah.
creature do so.
That
I can
card's-
like picture the art on it.
Yeah, that's a mask.
yeah,
It's a really horny art. Horned, but also horny.
Yeah.
we got close.
That's a good Adam Rex piece. That's a solid piece of art.
And I think people are going to run this in Anzrag. And Anzrag is currently pretty
Is that
popular.
the mole?
'cause
Is
it's
that the
busted.
mole?
That's
the
the
mole god.
infinite combat
Card's-
turn card.
Yeah, that card's busted as hell.
And it's going to make a bunch of old cards like Bubble Matrix that people haven't looked at in years,
Mhm.
you know? Doman Gate, stuff like that. All of a sudden, like if you're having
Doman
multiple attack
Gate,
phases,
hell
make
yeah.
creatures unblockable is real useful. Bubble
Is there
Matrix
any-
is under $5.
Is there any cards that grant Provoke?
Oh,
Mm,
Didn't play
no,
that.
but I think they have just done it as the fight mechanic more than Provoke.
Sure. I just love the mechanic Provoke, exactly.
it makes a
Well,
creature
Provoke,
block. Is
I
that
think fight is a better thing because there are multiple ways to make things fight, so it's not just like a one set specific thing, whereas Provoke would be. So I think
Well, like,
granting the ability
Provoke would
to
be good
fight-
for Anzrag, is the only reason I was thinking of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just saw people say Mole God a bunch before I actually saw the card and read the card. And then I read the card. And I was like, holy, it's not just a meme. This is absurd. It just goes right in my Mael deck.
Didn't Kid Rock write a song about a mole god?
Only God knows why. That one.
Yeah. That's the one.
I believe you.
I'm with you.
He's my favorite artist because he keeps it real. He's not a CIA plant.
Correct. He's not, yes, not been turned by the government.
He is the rights Taylor Swift.
He
That's
is my
bad.
favorite shardist. My favorite musical shardist.
When he said "ba with the ba, the binga bang, biggie diggy biggie," said the boogie to jump the boogie, I was like, right on. This guy is talking about what we're going through as white Americans.
What?
All right, I'm
going
going to go ahead.
I got a March of the Machine rare.
Uh-huh.
It is blue.
March of the Machines, huh?
Oh.
Yeah.
March of the Machine.
Is that the sword in the circle?
Whatever the set was that Aftermath was tied to, but it's not Aftermath.
It is Machine, for the record. Jason's trying to trip everyone up.
Machine Collective, Machine Hive Mind, Machine Elish Norn.
None of this is helping
Bert
me
Kreischer.
guess what this is as a
You know,
rare.
my breaking bulk is Bert Kreischer. You got it.
I would like Bert Kreischer to take a break from that
You could-
machine story.
You can find him in bulk, but it's worth slightly more.
He's got a lot of bits, and only a couple of them are good. And you got to really.
Hey,
hunt
who are
for
you
him in the
calling
bulk.
bulky?
So there was this Russian guy talking in his funny Russian voice, like, "Man, you can drink so much." Saying that sentence for like 20 minutes is his best bit.
I saw him live and he did 45, got a standing ovation, and then told the fucking machine story. Like after he did his, I was like, "You have
Well,
to?"
Jason, that's how you bait a standing ovation like a fucking genius. So if you finish and you sucked and you haven't done the one thing they came for, they can either boo and be angry and not get the thing they came for, or go, yeah, you're so awesome, until you give them the thing they came for.
Netflix gives the guy a new hour every year. Like, he shouldn't have escape plans built into his act.
Machine, please. Anybody have any guesses for my breaking bulk?
I don't care.
Wait, but no, Chrome Host Sea Shark.
No, that card's actually worth something. That card's
Damn
like
it.
not broke.
No.
I'm calling it. Y'all have had so much time.
As a rare, it's so
Stop
hard.
picking cards after I quit.
I'm picking cards that are for standard.
I named one.
3 years is too far for it to go back. You know what? I will push back against the 3-year format. If you're going to pick standard cards, I insist it be a go back at least 5 years.
It's Rona, Herald of Invasion.
The card's cool.
The card has a very dangerous line of text on it, which is whenever you blank, untap this creature. In this case, it's cast a legendary spell. Play it with Relic of Legends and Delny Streetwise Lookout, and every time you cast a 2-mana legend, you untap your Rona twice, which makes 2 mana. Mm-hmm. Add an Inti to the mix, you throw some loots in there, start exiling cards. Exile 2 cards per loot. Add a Pia, Consul of Revival, which I picked as my pick of the week a couple weeks back.
And you got a
cast spell from
mid-range
exile. You get 2 Thopters. You got a combo deck going. You play Proph's Eidetic Memory.
If you have 5 creatures in play, you can draw 2 cards and make 2 Thopters.
Well, no, you can just make 20. I made 20 Thopters in a turn when I played. I started my turn with Rona, a Relic of Legends, and 4 lands, and I attacked for 45 damage that turn.
Rona's nuts. Rona combos in other formats with Tethys. It's good in those decks. Like, Rona's the kind of breaking bulk that's a breaking bulk now. And like 5 or 6 years from now, when it's a part of another combo deck in whatever format, is, you know, a 5.
Look, everybody's saying that Rona is so powerful. Rona's unstoppable. The consequences of Rona will exist for years. And I got to tell you, I don't need a Nemesis mask to deal with Rona. All right.
Okay.
Just saying.
Rona buy list for about 45 cents. Worth about $1. Pull them out of bulk rares all the time because she kind of just looks like another one of the 45 to 50 legends that was in that set.
All right.
That's the set nobody wanted to buy, right?
People bought that one because they wanted to open Ragavan 69.
All right, I'll come in hot here. I have a red common from Lord of the Rings.
It's cast into the fire.
God damn it!
The card's playable. It exiles the One Ring and it kills both Hazardworks Bowmaster. It was there just in case one of those cards is too good. Play it. You fucking imbecile.
And no, it's 20 cents on the buy list. It's so good. It's only 50 cents, but it's 20 cents on the buy list. Cast into the fire is amazing. Good for you. All right, Cass, did you say there's a secret DJ pick coming in here?
There is. I had to pull up what this card is just so I can really... This is a Fallen Empire's colorless rare.
Is it Rainbow Veil?
No.
Is it the is it one of those reserve list rares that are terrible? Like the Implements of Sacrifice or something like that?
I don't know what you're talking about. This might be that in that cycle.
Alopile?
No, that one's not it.
Good for you, Jason, even being able to name cards.
Yeah, you're I think you might have gotten
then.
Close. It's something of something, like blank of blank.
So it's not... Is it...
6 of 9.
Relic of Bale or something?
I'm going to give it to you because it's DJ's pick and not mine. You're very close. It's Balm of Restoration.
Oh! Yeah, I know the card. Jeez.
It is an artifact that gains life or prevents damage. 2 damage to be exact. DJ's exact reasoning was occasionally sells for $1 plus on TCG Player. One buy list pays 21 cents, but it's ABU games, so who knows if that's like... I don't know what their buy listing is like. This feels like a stretch. I don't think DJ should get any points for this.
I award you no points. May God have mercy on your soul.
This would also be flagged by that thing because it's cheaper on Card Kingdom than it is on TCG Player, and all the near mint copies are sold out on Card Kingdom.
Just if you want this information before even DJ has it, get on that MTG Stocks Premium.
This is a Fallen Empire's rare.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize they had rares in that set back in the day.
Well, you know what else they had back then, Jason, is one kind of booster pack. You know what they have now?
They had two kinds of booster pack, Corbin. You had
kind
the 8-card booster pack for Homelands and Fallen Empires, and you had the 15-card booster for every other set.
Jesus Christ. Okay, man. That's a great point, Jason.
I know it
you.
is. Or was it 12 cards in Fallen Empires? I don't remember. Maybe it was 12.
And now we have two booster packs again. Two booster packs again, not three. There are play boosters and collector boosters. Play boosters made their appearance. Some store owners on Twitter and some content creators, and we don't want to overgeneralize. There have been some anecdotal reports that this set either was not popular or did not sell well, or maybe that the introduction of play boosters hurt it. What is your all's take on this? I mean, Cass, you of course are at a store all weekend. You saw what's going on. What was your experience just in terms of how did this compare to the last couple of sets?
I think there was a little bit of sticker shock around the price increase. I think that's like the biggest, that's like the fulcrum of the whole conversation is like, why are booster boxes $150 or whatever?
Yeah.
But I also think there was a lot of like people buying them anyways, opening them up and being like, wow, I got 50 rares in a box. Because you can get like, in the most insane situation, you can get a rare in your rare slot, in your wild card slot, a foil rare in your foil wild card slot, a foil rare in your foil slot, and then also in theory like a special guest rare and also of the list rare. You can get 7 rares in a pack, I think, in the perfect world.
I saw a
Not
3 or 4
happen.
rare. Yeah, I think I saw like a 3 rare pack across from me in the like. I don't know. I'd feel good about that, I guess.
That
if
seems
I was
really
buying the
annoying
pack.
to draft.
I think it's cool. I think most of the rares are like pretty reasonable. They curated the list super hard for this, by the way. I am not worried about the list being a problem for draft after seeing the list they had for this set.
Yeah.
Because all the cards were like on theme with limited environment, and it's a small enough grouping of cards that you can occasionally choose to play around them.
Yeah.
That said,
I think it's cool when they do it like that. The way the bonus sheet in, say, March of the Machine maybe was. I don't remember. Like, Strixhaven, when they first did it, it was just kind of a smattering of cards.
Yeah.
But when they did it where it actually really made sense with the set, it was pretty neat.
I lost a game of Limited in the little sealed pool thing I did to a Nod of the Bone off the list, gaining my opponent like 14 life out of nowhere. I'm like, that's dope. I think that's really cool because it was in like a Golgari deck. They self-milled a little bit. They did some collecting evidence, but then eventually they were just like, I collected all my non-creature cards as evidence, so let's gain some life with Nod of the Bone. And like, I think if they curate the list like that, I'm into that for play boosters. But that aside, people seem to be relatively pleased with their play booster experience if they actually got them. I think a lot of people were turned off by the price increase.
Well, was the pre-release price any differently for you? For me, I think it was the same.
I think it was slightly higher for us. We had also been underpricing for a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, as much as like the jump from 100 to 150 is really steep, we also had $100 booster boxes for practically 25 years.
Right.
Yeah, most stores local to me were charging at least 120 or 115 box.
Yeah. I think we were at 120 for like set boxes or something, maybe 125 for set boxes. And so it's not that big of a leap. They kind of softballed it.
Things were really different, all that time ago. Well, there was inflation, there was war in the Middle East, there was just all kind of factors that
don't happen today, obviously.
Yeah.
It
Rock was
crazy.
popular.
You're so upbeat, Jason. I love it. Thank you.
It is crazy to me that I paid the same price for a Zendikar booster box as I did for like Shadows over Innistrad or like Ikoria. I paid the same price for an Ikoria booster box as I did for Zendikar. And like that probably wasn't sustainable.
If Zendikar had been the first $150 booster box, but they like put more of those random cards you could get. Sure. Remember they bought cards off the second. We seriously opened a damaged card. I was like, was this in some guy's like desk at WotC?
Some of the cards were, yeah.
Amazing.
I remember
and cool. I like that more than them printing stuff. I want him to have to like scrounge it up.
At my pre-release, someone did open, I think it was a Candelabra, and they were just like, what the is this? Candelabra was like $30 at the time or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, is this like a special bonus sheet of cards that care about lands? And we found out what it was later, obviously. We thought it was like Candelabra untaps lands and Zendikar was land set, so we thought it was thematic. Turns out it was just, no, expensive cards.
Super chill.
Yeah, I was actually talking recently about Zendikar being the set that saved Magic. I don't know how much you two know about that, about like Mark Rosewater jumping in and like saving Magic with Zendikar.
Well, that would have been around the time I was getting into Magic around then, and I know that around then there was a Pro Tour cut from the schedule. Like they went 4 events a year to 3 events, and we'll hear a huge cost-cutting measure.
Yeah.
And then the inserting Power 9 into packs is not a lever the pull unless you feel like you really need to pull it.
But it was also one of those things where like choosing to print the fetch lands knowing it would sell boxes, I think was like obviously a very conscious decision. There was like a market increase in power level. There was just like a very different design paradigm than there was from sets prior. But I got into this conversation because I was reminiscing about, as long as we're on the topic of kind of like throwbacks, I was thinking about Rise of the Eldrazi and how every card in that set I have a positive association with. Even like the deranged stuff like Emrakul, the Aeon Storm or whatever. Like that set was a masterpiece. And I think it was really a precursor for what was to come in Magic in both negative and positive ways. Which is to say that, I don't know, I think we take a lot of things for granted in Magic, and trying to sort of cathedrals everywhere for the eyes to see, right? That's the line or whatever I said. I think Murders of Karlov Manor has a lot of elements of that too, where there's just like a lot of things that are really, really nicely done that I think a lot of people are going to take for granted and be positive.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I feel very good about this set is the change to serialized. Many fewer in this set. Someone's done the math. Shout out to Cardboard by the Numbers here. This is their math, so if it's wrong, I'm just... if you wanted to open a serialized card, Brothers War March and Machine, Ravnica, Doctor Who, took an average of 8.3 collector boxes to get one serial. With the decrease in serialized cards and the play booster or the booster changes and the back end with how they've done the odds, in order to open up a serialized card from Murders at Karlov Manor, you're looking at an average of 152 collector boxes. That's 8 before to 152 now to get a serialized card. And that makes that's much more similar to what it was to get, say, a serialized Soul Ring in Lord of the Rings than it is previously. So making the serialized cards more special is probably a good thing.
I think that math is a little bit wrong on both ends, but it's like roughly in the right space. The biggest difference is just that, like, we were talking about this with Ravnica Remastered. There was 64 serialized cards in Ravnica Remastered. 64 times 500 is some very large, 32,000, I think, serialized cards exist. For Murders at Karlov Manor, there are 1,750 because there were only 7 different cards, and they each only got 250 copies. Now, I think most of them are cards no one's going to care about. We had someone at our store open a Rakdos Patron of Chaos, and that was the first time on like release weekend that I went to, they wanted to sell it. I could not find a single comparable for it online on pre-release weekend. And that's never happened before on a pre-release weekend, which, you know, it should probably be the case. It should be a very cool thing. I even remember with Lord of the Rings, like, someone opened a serialized Human Ring, and there were just, like, 15 listings online already.
Yeah. Interesting.
On, like, release weekend.
I've been wondering whether I should go buy I'm somebody who does like to get a collector box when the sets comes out. And it's not even necessarily about the value, because a lot of times, the value of the cards tends to go up a while after the set comes out. But generally, they just become my newish. Like, they go into my decks, they become trade fodder, whatever, right? But I am kind of wondering about it, if like, that's an incredibly lottery high number now, but it is probably the way it's supposed to go. So I wonder, without getting a serialized card in 1 in every 8 boxes, what it does for the median box value. You know?
I think that's yet to be determined. I think we just need like some time for that to shake out, because I think prices are very suppressed by... When a set undersells, which I think it did for a lot of LGSs, they have to dump their inventory somehow, which will suppress the price of cards for a while. So I think there will be a good opportunity in the next week or two to buy a lot of the cards you need from this set very cheap because of that.
Yeah, and then if you're looking, I mean, we've talked about Standard. The Standard RCQ season's going on. The regional championship coming up at Denver is Modern. The Pro Tour in 3 weeks is Pioneer. There's a lot going on in different formats in Magic, but all those 2-year-old standard cards or even 1-year-old standard cards that are still going to be legal for 2 where you want to look as they're impacted for murders at Karlov.
Pick of the week.
Pick of the week.
It's time for the pick of the week.
Pick of the week will be destroyed by the strong.
It's pick of the W for Wario. This segment brought to you by WarioWare Inc. I'm gonna pick.
I even got to pick.
Have a rotten pick of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
I'll hit you with a motorcycle. What?
Jason,
that a thing he ever did? What?
Jason, we'll just roll right with that on into your pick of the week. Why don't you get us started?
Well, what has 2 arms, 2 legs, and is cheaper on Card Kingdom than on TCG Player because it's almost sold out on Card Kingdom? That's right, Naeth of the Dire Hunt.
Oh.
Just like my Breaking Bulk, Ansreg the Quake Mole loves Naeth of the Dire Hunt. You love to be fighting, and you love to be doubling a creature's power every combat. Well, how many combats do you get? Well, with Ansreg the Quake Mole, you get lots of combats. You get lots of chances to double something's power and toughness. So Naeth of the Dire Hunt, only printed in Jumpstart, still under $5, on its way up. Pick up these Naeths today. This was like a $30 card, and then everyone was like, oh, we opened more Jumpstart. It's not 30. So
You should.
yeah, it's a very, this is not a below $5 card.
You should go and buy copies of these if you're feeling nasty.
I mean, there's a card called Nath, so nasty is that's nasty. Yeah, okay.
I wasn't doing a Cleveland. Oh, that's nasty. I was doing a like if you feeling nasty.
Oh, I'm nasty.
Like nasty.
I did get nasty and the payeth.
I played the Dire Hunt one. I'll keep on. I'm going to look at Modern this week. At least I think it's Modern. I suppose this counts as Commanders/Legacies. Everything, because Yavimaya Cradle of Growth has slowly, very slowly, Modern Horizons 2, crept up to about $12, $13. It may not seem like a lot, but it was only $9 to $10 2 months ago. So that's actual growth out of a forever staple. It's not on the level of Urborg simply because there is ball coffers. And Green, maybe doesn't need it, blah, blah, blah. But Yavimaya gets played in a fair amount of
Imagine
places.
Green did have a Cabal coffers. That'd be so fun.
They will eventually.
They do. It's called Nykthos.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Anyway, Yavimaya is just the price of the graph where it looks right now. Anything, if you can find Yavimaya for around still that $10 range, it's likely to not be there for much.
I really want to go back and listen to what we said about that card because I bought a lot of them.
Well, Modern Horizons 2 is...
That card bottomed out at like $4, right? Like it got very cheap for a while there.
You know what else is cheap?
No, well, maybe.
Ignoble Hierarch. Why is that so cheap? I don't understand. I don't understand how Ignoble Hierarch is as cheap as it is.
I think it's weird because like card's like what, $3 or something, if that.
If that.
Yeah, I remember when that card first got spoiled, I was like super pumped for it. I was like, hell yeah, another Hierarch. I pre-ordered 4 copies for $10 a piece, being like, I want to own these forever. This can't be that much higher than the final price, and boy was I wrong.
Yeah, Magic took a real big leap around then.
But like,
the actual joke is that Modern Horizons 2 has been printed nonstop for like 3 years now, almost, right?
But how are like some of the mythics still expensive? Like, are that many people playing Modern more than EDH? Like, I don't understand how an EDH rare is cheap and a non-EDH format mythic is way more expensive. I don't get it.
Exactly the reason for you, and it's the reason that you're gonna hate the most. Endurance, Solitude, Ragavan, all those export to Japan. Commander cards do not. That's honestly sense. That's why you always see at every GP there's like, or every Magic Con, there's like three vendors paying full retail on like the competitive cards.
Makes sense.
I guess I knew that Japan ate up Legacy and Vintage cards. I didn't really think they would be eating up Modern stuff, but I guess that stuff is just basically old.
What's also just like
Modern's the new, extended. So I
all
guess.
the good cards in Modern Horizons, except for Ragavan, are also legacy cards.
It's fair.
Yeah, well, and yeah, it's been an interesting set over the last few years. We'll also have a Modern Horizons.
I'm excited to see some cards out of that set.
For sure. All right, Cass, before we get out of here this week, what are you looking at for pick of the week?
I'm doing the dangerous pick of the week where I'm picking a card from the new set, saying that you should find copies if you can find them extra cheap as they start to go down. No one's really talked about this card yet, but Vanifar Evolved Enigma. The blue-green mythic. So that card, I'm sure, also has some commander appeal, but I haven't really thought about that much yet.
Yeah.
If you play Vanifar and you put a disguised creature face down, you basically got a 3-mana rebate on your 4-mana card the turn you played it.
But in EDH, people have access to Displacer Kit and Ghostly Flicker.
Right.
Like, that's what they're doing. So, yeah. It's
And
even
in
more
Standard-
busted there.
In Standard, you can just while I'm flooding out, I'll just make some extra 2/2s that start getting counters over time. This card is very quietly strong. I think a lot of cards... That's actually the thing I think that WotC's done really well lately is make cards that are quietly strong.
Yeah.
And I think this card's going to do some real stuff in Standard. It might not for a little bit because it might just need more time for, I think specifically like some of the domain stuff to leave the format, which it will when Triomes leave. But I'm into owning a mythic from a set that probably will be a little bit under opening since the first play booster set, and also just has a very unique effect that synergizes with a lot of cards that are in the set it's in.
Oh, I want to Pickles lock people with this card.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And I think that does it for... Wait, I'm just getting word. There's... DJ... No, DJ can't come to the phone right now. He's dead. Cass, though, has a second pick of the week, so we still get 4. Cass, what are you looking at?
That was the bit you stopped us to set up.
I also actually have a DJ pick of the week, but that's not what I'm doing. Mine's better, I think, personally. DJ's is Vanquisher's Banner because the card's under $3. Whatever, who cares?
That's a spreadsheet pick.
My second pick of the week is also from the new set. It's called Cryptic Coat. Cryptic Coat is a 3-mana artifact equipment that when it comes into play, you cloak the top card of your library. You basically manifest it into a 2/2 with Ward. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. And then for 1 and a blue, you can return Cryptic Coat to its owner's hand.
Ooh.
I got absolutely shellacked by this card in a game of Legacy. I couldn't kill the equipment itself. I kept killing the creatures. They kept bouncing it, replaying it. Once you get the Stone Fortune to play with it, you can vial it in so it can't be countered on the way down. And on the final turn of the game, when I was trying to cast a game-winning spell, my opponent returned it to their hand to pitch it to Force of Will. This card is really strong on rate. It's kind of an army in a can card. It scales with the amount of mana you have, and it also scales with the power level of the format a little bit. Also, notably, it just can't be blocked. The equipment can't equip to different creatures, so the only thing you can ever make unblockable is the thing it manifested onto. But also, if you just hit like a creature with it, you can turn it face up. You could cloak a Phyrexian Dreadnought with this, turn it face up for a single colorless, and have a 13/12 unblockable. Kind of sick.
Yeah, a little bit.
Another
I like
quietly
what you-
powerful card.
Oh, like Cass's brain's just wheeling on these standard cards. I love it.
I'm rotating cubes in my mind all hours of the day.
Well, we're glad to have the insight here on the show, and we're glad to bring it to all of you. We're also very thankful for all of you who support us at patreon.com/BSB.
Don't speak for me.
Jason moderately appreciates it. Maybe.
You're still speaking for
the
me.
rest of I said maybe. The rest of us definitely really appreciate you going to patreon.com/BSB.
You're speaking
Jason,
for
how do you
DJ
feel?
too. He's not here to
Jason,
defend
how do you
myself.
feel?
I am speaking.
How do I feel about the people who go to patreon.com/BSB and give us as little as $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode?
That's
I
what
don't
we're
have an
asking, yeah.
opinion.
No opinion from Jason. What about the ones who give us $2 a month?
Well, they're obviously the best. Because
Better.
$2 doesn't give you any more than $1 except a flare that lets people know that you're not poor. And those are the best.
Jason,
We appreciate
against the pores. Put it on record.
I appreciate all of you. Jason appreciates some of you. That means Jason's
You're
approval.
willing to pay double for a swag tag? That's great, because all that money goes to us so we can buy stuff to give to the patrons, have this cast edited, get the thumbnails. If you're paying double for a swag tag, you are making this podcast possible.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Cast Flash Sat, that's coming to patrons. I can't wait for that one. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, MTG Stocks and Coalesce Apparel and Design. Remind you to use the gift code Brainstorm Brewery there to get 10% off of an order for any of your favorite content. Thank you everyone for listening to the show. We'll see you next week.